Hey everyone, and welcome back to Dead Mall Walking. On a recent trip to the US, I found myself at the White Mountain Mall in Rock Springs, Wyoming. This 300,000 square foot dead mall may not look like much, but it's noteworthy for a couple of reasons. The main one being that it was the state's first enclosed mall. Then again, Wyoming is a state with only 3 enclosed malls, so it's not like it has a ton of competition there. There are more national parks here than there are shopping malls, which probably speaks to the character of the state. This is a single-story mall, which leads me to a fun fact I learned while researching the property. The entire state of Wyoming reportedly has just 2 escalators, located in the Hilltop National Bank and the downtown branch of First Interstate Bank in Casper. Within the space of about 10 minutes, you can take a ride on every single escalator in Wyoming. An incredibly specific and pretty weird badge of honour. With a land area of around 100,000 square miles and a population of just over 500,000, Wyoming has a population density of just 6 people per square mile, the lowest of any state other than Alaska. For context, Ohio has 288 people per square mile, New York has 415, and District of Columbia has more than 11,000. I don't mean to turn this into a geography lesson, but I wanted to briefly explain how I was able to visit 66% of Wyoming's active malls in the space of just 12 hours. I'll also be creating a video about Frontier Mall, but I'll have to make a return visit to Casper if I want to complete the trilogy and film East Ridge Mall. I could ride those escalators while I'm at it. Anyway, that's enough Wyoming waffling. History time. This mall was opened back in 1978, anchored by JCPenney, Ernest Home Center, Woolworth, and Herberger's department store. There's an awesome old photo of the latter inside the mall, and even though it closed in 2018 when parent company Bon-Ton went out of business, you can still see the label scar above one of the mall's entrances today. It's probably worth pointing out that this video was recorded on a Friday evening in September. The mall could be so quiet because the residents of Rock Springs had already decamped to watch their Tigers take on the Campbell County Camels under the Friday night lights, where unfortunately for them, Campbell County High had a statement victory of 35-3. Even so, I find it pretty staggering that the mall is this empty at the beginning of the weekend. We talk a lot about over-malling as one of the root causes of there being so many dead and struggling malls in the US, but that argument doesn't quite hold true here. This state only has 1 mall per, give or take, 200,000 people. So it's hardly over-malled. Then again, those people are sparsely distributed, and it may be that Wyomingites just aren't big shoppers. I'll revisit this topic in my video on Cheyenne's Frontier Mall, since that's Wyoming's capital and most populous city. There's nothing really too crazy to say about this mall. Aside from some of its space being repurposed in interesting ways, like State of Wyoming offices being located inside, it's pretty much your typical suburban mall. Maybe it's worth pointing out that it doesn't have a food court to speak of, but fear not, there's an Applebee's outside in the parking lot, if you're hungry. According to the Cheyenne Post, White Mountain Mall was 96% occupied when Alturas Capital Partners acquired it at the end of 2023. If that was true then, it's definitely not true now. The mall has room for 40 stores and a staggering 8 anchors, although that may be too grandiose a term for some of the large stores that adjoin the property but don't have connected mall entrances. This big old TJ Maxx is one of them that does. And it was hopping. Back inside the mall, there are a bunch of empty units. It feels like there was a mass exodus in here at some point, but I can't quite tell when that happened. Could be the aftermath of the pandemic, or it could have been more recent than that. Let me know in the comments if you have any insights into that. It's currently sitting somewhere around 50% occupancy, maybe even lower, which definitely puts it in dead mall territory. Alturas owns a few other retail locations: Tucson, Arizona's Heritage Plaza Shopping Center, Phoenix's Metro Town Center, and Salt Lake City's Shops at Decker Lake. But malls aren't necessarily their comfort zone. time will tell if this turns out to be a rescue mission or the beginning of a slow decline. A word of warning if you decide to visit. The internal door connecting the mall with Dunham's Sports seems defective. A young couple spent a while trying to open it, then once they finally got through, it closed with a banging sound as loud as a gunshot. Listen to this. I was honestly ready to hit the deck. But as you can see, I live to film another day. There's the offending door, by the way. Honestly, it seems like people have been unenthusiastic about this mall for a while now. In 2014, someone called it sad but the only option. 2 years later, someone said it's not what it used to be. And by 2021, it was deemed ready to be retired. It's a shame because there are actually some nice vintage architectural features in here, and some kind of interesting tenants, like this VR and gaming lounge that I could see being a fun hangout for local teens. For a time in the early 2000s, one of the mall's anchor spaces was even occupied by a Harley-Davidson dealership. The first ever American Harley dealership to be located in a mall, in fact. Although it didn't last, it did hang around for almost a decade. This mall being so quiet doesn't necessarily make sense to me, since Rock Springs feels like it should be big enough to support a mall like this one. It has a population of around 25,000, roughly double that of Jasper, Alabama, but its mall appears to be facing the same struggles as Jasper Mall, an absolute diamond in the rough that I visited a couple of years ago. Maybe things can still turn around for this mall, or maybe it'll end up being another casualty of what some folks are calling the demalling of America, which would leave Wyoming with just 2. We'll have to wait and see. Thanks so much for checking out this video. I'll be back with another Wyoming mall soon, but until then, there are plenty from other states and here in the UK on the channel for you to check out. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to like and subscribe. My Instagram and some other ways to support what I do are linked below. Until next time, goodbye from White Mountain Mall in Rock Springs, Wyoming.